Hey everybody, Pastor Chris here. Just wanted to share with you our 30-day devotional and small group study on Ephesians that it is now available at thefollowproject.com. This is a really special work that God put on our heart, not only for the purpose of biblical literacy, but also to speak about how the body of Christ needs to be unified. And Paul puts that into such beautiful expression through the book of Ephesians. And so we have put together a 30-day small group study, but you can also do it from a personal devotional standpoint. And this is designed along with videos to help you come closer to the heart of God in your day-to-day walk. So we hope that it blesses you. You can check it out at thefollowproject.com. Thanks. We're going to turn it over to Pastor Mark now for the Sunday message.
So here I am. I've sealed myself into a box that I'm unaware of, a prison of my own making, unaware that I created a prison that would shape and form all of the decisions that I made for the next 5 decades, and not come to understand that until the end of that journey. And that's amazing to me how patient God is. You know, He's God. He could have adjusted that moment in a way to let me know that's not good. Don't do that. Stay with me. But that's not what happened. My journey required me to be that, if you will, the prodigal who walked away. You know, somewhere I knew Jesus was coming back. Somebody had preached the gospel to me somewhere. I had that awareness. So I had that awareness, but I didn't in that moment have the ability to connect it with the reality that I was experiencing. And because of that, I became disparaged. I became broken, and I became self-reliant, even more so. And I started to become more self-focused. And so that was a catalyst. I drew on the energy of that moment for decades in my life. It was always a motivator, because that's why I would always do Mark W. Rasmussen on everything I signed as a testimony to the man who was the most important figure in my life at that time. And that's the reality of it. So I go through my high school years, because I finish up with District 41 at 6th grade and 7th grade through, the rest of the years. I go to Elkhorn Junior Senior High School in Elkhorn, Nebraska. And that was talk about a wake-up call. Oh my God. Never mind that in the midst of that, right at the basic same time, that's when he died. He died right in that same basic period. So I was still reeling from all of that. And then I go into an environment where I'm no longer at the top of the food chain, recognized, and I won't go into all that, but there's this thing that has been completely in my life since the beginning, that I have favor with people. And over time, they allow me to be in a favorable position with them. It's just there. It's another part of that DNA that God gave me. And so that was my experience coming out of District 41. We did parliamentary procedure, and so we'd hold meetings every Friday, and we'd elect officers, and I was president twice. I declined the third time. I turned it down. They wanted to do me a third term, and I'm like, no, somebody else needs to have a chance, because I knew the value and that came from freedom. Because having that level of authority, there's a freedom. I mean, because the teachers were observing and they were watching, because they were teaching in that moment, even though we were doing this meeting. But we were allowed to have the freedom to do that. And in that process, I started to learn about responsibility. Freedom requires you to be responsible. And it took me a couple times to do it. And then I realized someone else needs to learn this lesson as well. This is a valuable life lesson. And so I declined, like I said, the third time. So I ended up going to Elkhorn Junior Senior High School, going into 7th grade. I think my class was 100 plus kids, just my class, not the whole school, just my class. So needless to say, there was a bit of a culture shock there. Plus, I was one of the royalty of Camelot, which I didn't know. So there was already this looking down the nose at me because of the respect that we were given in the community that most people under the current, didn't like at all. They didn't like that somehow we were acknowledged for those things. And so, what did you do to deserve that kind of stuff? So I took a lot of negative feedback from that, especially being 5'5", 140 pounds with glasses this thick. I took a lot of negative feedback for that. And so I had to learn to be tough, and not tough in the way of I'm going to defend myself. No, I had to learn not to respond to people attacking me. Just don't respond. And the reason I was afraid to respond, and I wasn't afraid to fight. No, that's not it. I had discovered about myself that there's a button in me that when it gets pushed, I black out and I become enraged. And it happened through my life multiple times. Somebody pushed that button and that happened. And I was in the process of working that out, going, I can't keep doing that. I'm going to kill somebody, because I could potentially kill someone. I came close a couple of times to hurting individuals in that mode. And then, of course, by the grace of God, now I know I came out of it and go, what am I doing? I'm literally got this person up, their head's hitting the ceiling, and I'm ready to rip them into pieces. And I put them down and I look at him and go, you just need to go. That's all I said to him. I let him go. I go, you just need to go. And then I sat there and I go, what have I done? It was one of those moments, I don't know if you've ever had one of those where you get so out of control, you don't know who you are. That was one of those moments for me. Who am I? And that goes back to those 4 pillars, who am I? Why am I here? What's there? What am I to, is there more for me, right? And then the final one, what do I do with all that? And that's the cycle that continues. I continue to identify in my life as I've gone through this process over the last couple of weeks, that what he's been taking me personally through, and then once you revealed and he revealed through you, this is what we're going to do. It's like, oh man, the emotion. Oh, I went through some emotional moments just because he would bring these things back to my memory. And I'd relive the emotion. I go, Lord, what's wrong with me? I already know the answer. I know he loved me the best he could. I know that. And he goes, that's not it, Mark. It's telling you it's real. It really did happen. It's part of who you are. Don't deny who you are. And because all those things do shape and form us. And so they are valuable lessons. That's Romans 8:28. He can use that for his glory. It wasn't beautiful in the moment. It wasn't fun in the moment. But the way he does things, it can become beautiful. It can become wonderful. And it can become healing for somebody else. So needless to say, my high school years were very troubling. There was one of those moments. These seem to be in these seasons of my life. There are these moments. And there was one of those moments, and it was November 2nd, 1976. And the reason I remember that date so well is it was Election Day, 1976. And I was a young man, and I'm, 16 years old, basically, right? Because it's November, and I'm born in April. And I'm driving my sister to work, and she works at a photo hut. Now, for anybody who doesn't know what a photo hut is, it's back when you had to turn your film in to get it developed, right? And this particular company, chain, were these little booths that you'd drive up to on both sides, and you'd give them your film, or you'd pick up your film, and it'd take 3 days or whatever it was, and then you come back and do it. Well, that's where she worked. She worked in one of these booths, and I was taking her to that. We lived out, where we lived in Camelot, and we had to drive into Omaha, and we were on, I think it was Maple Street. And we come up on, it used to be a hill. It's all gone now. That hill's all gone. They got rid of this hill. But we were coming up on this hill that was notorious for a blind hill. And this vehicle pops up on the top of the hill. It's a van, big van, like 17-passenger van, and turns right in front of me. I hit him head on. By the time my El Camino stopped, I'm sitting there. I see the windshield. I see the steering wheel. And I'm looking out my windshield. And all I'm seeing is ground. My engine is over there. My motor is over there. And I'm like, and of course I'm in shock. And I lean back and I look over to my sister. There were no seatbelts because this is an early 70s El Camino. It's an SS, sporty model. It's a pretty cool car, actually. I had it 2 weeks to the day, almost a day, but it's 2 weeks. It was totaled this thing. And I'm sitting there. And of course, I have an awareness. Oh my God, what just happened? I'm aware now. Oh, I'm in an accident. I'm starting to become aware. And I look over, and my sister, who was sitting in the passenger seat, is on the floor against the firewall, and everything between her and the firewall is gone. her body destroyed it. She literally destroyed the dash, the glove box. It was all gone to the firewall, and she's out. So I'm picking the pieces up off her, trying to see if she's alive. And she, of course she is. And she wakes up and I go, don't move. Are you okay? Yada, yada. And of course, by this time, people are like, guys, don't move, don't move. You've been in, and they're talking to us, right? You've been in an accident. Wait, we've called for help, all that stuff. And just happy to be alive, right? I mean, being a kid, first thought, damn, my car. Right? She's alive, so damn, my car. That was my first thought. And so they ended up taking us. The actual van we hit was from Emmanuel Hospital. It was workers from Emmanuel Hospital going to vote. That's who we hit. Well, my dad's in the hospital getting a surgery, but he's not at Emmanuel, he's at another hospital. So they tell him, oh, your kids have been in an accident, they're being brought by ambulance to the hospital. So he's like, okay, he's ripping things out, and he's like, where are you going? I'm going to the emergency room. I want to see my kids. That's what he's doing, right? I go, no, it's not this hospital. It's Emmanuel. Emmanuel? That's right down the road. Why are they going to Emmanuel way over there? And it's because it was the hospital van we had. So needless to say, we get there, and they fix us up. Surprisingly, I'm not that hurt. I'm aware that I've taken a blow to the face, my teeth. They're still there, but I'm aware, I'm not in pain, but I'm aware I've taken a blow to the face from the steering wheel and the windshield. And my one knee is hurting. That's the only thing that was really hurting. I had no pain anywhere else. And she was okay. She had a concussion. Of course, we both did. And I just remember, and this is why I tell this story, this state trooper, he comes in to interview us to get our statements, right? Because now that we're okay, he just wants to get our statements. He's been getting statements of everybody so they can understand what the accident was all about. And I share my statement. And I share with him everything, why I did what I did, what my training was from my growing, because I took those classes they had in school at that time, how to drive and all that. I don't remember what you call it, but we actually drove cars and stuff. It was, sorry, it skips me right now, but I did all that. And they trained you what to do in that situation. If somebody does that to you, hit the ditch, because we have really big ditches in Nebraska, and most of them are really wide and soft. Sure, it's not a road, but it's going to be better than hitting that car, so that's what I did. So I actually hit this van 10 feet off the main. The front of the van was 10 feet off the main when I hit him, and the officer goes, can I just ask you a question? Because I told him everything I told him. He goes, okay, that's consistent with what I've heard from the other driver. Can I ask you one question? I'm like, yeah. And I thought he's going to ask me, why'd you do that? Why'd you go there? And that wasn't the question he asked. He goes, and he leaned in, he goes, why did you slow down as you came up on that hill? Because everybody behind you said you slowed down. I go, I did? He goes, yeah. I go, I don't know. I don't know why I slowed down. He goes, well, it saved your life. It saved your life. And not knowing it then, they were with me. They were in the car with us. They saved us. They being the Godhead, right? But specifically Holy Spirit, Jesus, however you want to process that in your religion, I don't care. They were there. God was there. I didn't understand that at the time, but it's just one of those moments where in retrospect, you look back and go, it's true. You never leave me. You never forsake me. I'm living proof that's true, whether you want to accept it or not. Just go back and look at the accident report from November 2nd, 1976. So that was one of those keystone moments, and again, looking back now, I see the value of that, right? You don't see value in those things until you get some hindsight and you can actually it's called perspective. And the challenge here is getting God's perspective in a fallen, corrupt, corrosive environment, right? It's very challenging. And there are plenty of voices that want to tell us we're nuts, we're foolish, we're not being careful with what we should be doing, all those things, all that crap, all that inner voice stuff that we all deal with, right? And we have to overcome. That's the self. That's Luke 9:23. That's the self we have to put, deny and put on the cross. But we all have it. And so you can imagine I had a lot of those voices from that time going forward, about what if, a lot of the devil's advocate type stuff, and there were people who'd come and do that. They would be the representative for that in my life, But also in that period of my life, in my high school years, there's two people that I don't give enough credit to. And The first one is Joni Rower. She was a longtime family friend. Her sister was our babysitter when we were those little kids over there at that farmhouse in Bennington. And Joni was the younger sister. And Joni was always that faithful friend to me. She was that friend that there's nothing that could separate her from me. Nothing. And I didn't see it at the time. I didn't understand it at the time. I didn't understand that level of loyalty and commitment. Love truly is what it was, right? But I didn't understand it. I didn't appreciate it because I'd already closed all those things off, right? I'd sealed that part up and said, never again, never again, never again. And so I look back now and I realize the value that she was and has been in my life as reflecting on the relationship that I had with her and the moments that we had where it was just the two of us and how she transformed who I am as a person. And she probably doesn't even know that, because I never shared it with anybody. Certainly haven't shared it with her. And then the second person is Julie Christensen. Julie Christensen was this girl I was attracted to. I want to say she was in my class. I think she was the same age group as me. But she was a good friend with my older brother, Patrick. And so that's how I got to know her. And I started to pursue that because, being Mark in that stage of my life, it's like, I like what I'm looking at. I want to see what it comes to. That was where I was at. When you lock up love, that doesn't leave anything else. It's all the bad stuff stays. And that's what I did. I chained love to the bed and went out and tried to live life. That's what I did. And the reason I bring her up is there was never anything that happened. There was one moment we were at a party. I believe it was at her house. And, we're just being kids. It was all nice. And we got separated. We sat down. Of course, I go, ooh, here's my chance, right? And no, she started telling me about this Jesus. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about Jesus. I want to, let's see where this goes, So she just persisted in that moment. And then that ended that moment. And it was like 15, 16, 17, somewhere in there. I was young. And I look back now and I see the value of that moment, that if I had seized that moment, right? What could I have been different about the things that I encountered, experienced? I really truly believe that who I am is who I am and the purpose why I'm here. Who I am, why I'm here, all the things that he's asked me to do, all that stuff, that's clear. But the things that, the baggage that's come along with it, those were all based upon my choices, my bad choices, of walking through ignorantly, but still walking through in free will, because you can be ignorant in free will and still you get the consequences of it. And that's what I did. I reaped a lot of consequences because of that. And I went through some very dark and desperate times. And because of that, that was another one of those transition points in my life, in my, like I said, mid-teens, where I missed an opportunity that, looking back on, I see could have had wonderful value for just my personal experience. I don't really believe it would have changed the time we're in now and the season we're in now and what he's preparing me for next. I believe that's all based on Father's time. But the time in between then and now could have been much different, much more enjoyable perhaps, maybe better memories, whatever. I do know this, looking back in hindsight, I was never intended to be married. The plan of God was for me to never be married in this life. And I didn't understand that or accept that. And because of that, I caused pain to a lot of people. I don't regret it. I don't regret that I have two sons out of that journey, Taylor and Ryan. But the pain that I brought to both of my ex-wives and everyone else surrounding that, was not in the plan of God for sure. But did he allow it? Yeah. Did he use it? Absolutely. Is he using it better now? Oh yeah, a whole lot better now. But in the time, no. I was self-destructive. I was angry. So it's just, we're at this point where I have to change something. I'm aware, because I'm getting ready to graduate, right? I'm looking at senior year, right? This is where I'm at in my life. And I realize I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be in this place. I don't want to be known as this. And by this time, my father is already in San Diego, California. He's relocated there with my brother, and they've started a meat business there. And so this idea entered my head that, my senior year, I'm going to graduate midterm. By the time I was halfway through my senior year, I'm just going to leave. John didn't graduate from school. I don't care if I graduate or not. That was my attitude. And so midterm, I called my dad and said, this is what I want to do. I want to come. I want you to teach me the business. I want to be around you. I want to learn. I want to get to know you. And he said, sure, come. So I did. So I left in January of my senior year. I just told my school, I'm leaving. High school, I'm just leaving. And that's what I did. Pretty crazy.